Harry's Wife, Part 103.5. The King is Watching Her. Ordinarily, Marie Claire might be seen amongst the supine publications that are there to support Harry's wife, but they're demonstrating loyalty to the King of England here with an article written by Rachel Birchfield, which has the headline, King Charles is apparently paying close attention to everything Harry's wife says about him, royal family. There is only so much the new king will tolerate of Harry's wife cashing in. Wonder if this makes it to the red boxes of correspondence. According to OK, King Charles is likely made aware of every keynote interview daughter-in-law Harry's wife takes part in, even though she isn't a working member of the royal family anymore. This extends to his son, Prince Harry, as well, with the royal expert saying he will be watching. Here, of course, King Charles needs to assert control, and Harry and his wife are a thorn in the side of the royal family. Their behaviour repeatedly threatens King Charles's need for control. He doesn't, of course, recognise that. He just sees them as errant, difficult, problematic. However, his own narcissism compels him to assert control over them and nullify the threat, and is doing so by causing to adopt a position of considerable vigilance, by in effect setting up a standing position of monitoring everything they're involved in to keep an eye upon them. This, of course, is being done in order to monitor the potential threat to control that they pose, and also is part, of course, of determining, do they merit further involvement? Do they merit the removal of their titles and petitioning Parliament to do so? Should I ensure that the titles that they want for their children are not given? It's all part of Charles maintaining his control over them. The article continues, Charles's modus operandi has been to pretty much try and ignore any stuff that's written and said about him. Nullification of threat to control by staying in a position of withdrawal. Duncan Larcombe explains that that's his modus operandi, but continues by stating, but on Harry's wife, I would be very, very surprised if he weren't being made aware of every kind of keynote interview and commercial stuff, because they have to. Last week, Harry's wife made the cover of Variety for a wide-ranging interview, and it's likely that Charles's staff briefed him about what she said. Again, demonstrating that need to assert control, and of course what she does will amount to a threat to control. At the time, Charles isn't going to immediately assert control over her by ringing her up and saying, now, listen to me, purveyor of bronzeness and perpetual victim, get your fucking act together, or I'm going to come round there and bop you over the head with a sceptre. No, he's not going to do that. He's not going to send her a letter. Dear Harry's wife, sort yourself out or else. No. He, of course, will assert control indirectly by commenting upon her behaviour to members of his own coterie, pointing out to courtiers, perhaps other members of the family, to Camilla, the unpleasantness and ridiculousness of Harry's wife and Harry's behaviour, and thus gaining agreement from whoever is listening to him, allowing that subconscious control. In other instances, he jettisons them. But the fact is, he's monitoring. And this is demonstrating to an extent some instinctive planning on the part of King Charles, that he's keeping an eye on what they're doing with a view to acting upon it in the future. Larcombe continues by stating, it's the royal family brand. It is a fact. Harry's wife is trading on the brand that King Charles is now very much in charge of. So, yes, he will be watching. It will be far more in a business sense. He won't want her to be saying things that could be damaging to the reputations of the royal family, and in particular things that, in his opinion, are utterly untrue and unfair. Threat to facade, threat to control. It's not really personal, it's business, the expert says. It's not because he wants to go and cry and feel sad, and he'll go and dig in the garden to make himself feel better, he says. It's a practical thing. The business of the family has to be protected, and there is only so much the new king will tolerate of Harry's wife cashing in. It's good to see, perhaps, that she's reining back on what was beginning to look like an attack again, another offensive in the wake of the Queen's death. Well, it will look like that, but believe me, she'll start with the attacks again, which will be along the lines of victimhood, and will be whinging about the way that they've been treated, the way that they were treated at the funeral, the way that they've been treated since. Much of it imagined. Some of it based on reality because they were cold-shouldered. They were frozen out by the likes of the well-advised Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Sophie, Countess of Wessex. Of course, all of that threatens control, and the victimhood of Harry's wife is she can't see that she deserved it, but she always thinks that she doesn't deserve it. And she can't understand how, when she's so pleasant and nice to everybody, they're such meanies to her. Although for the moment she's reined back on certain attacks, her chameleon-like nature trying to now make out that she's fun Harry's wife, silly Harry's wife, almost cuddly Harry's wife, alongside being objectified Harry's wife, it won't be long before the attacks will start up again, because that's the modus operandi of her narcissism. A passive-aggressive victimhood approach that smears other people. Returning to the article, Marie Claire reported that Harry and Harry's wife are reportedly softening the Charles content in both Harry's upcoming memoir and the couple's forthcoming Netflix docu-series. A source, speaking to Radar per OK, says that if actions like this aren't taken, there could be consequences. The king has issued a firm warning to Harry that if he rats him out in any way in the book, Harry's whole family will be stripped of their titles. Use of threat, the source says, and he'll be cut off from royal life for good. Charles has gone into severe crisis management mode. He knows that Harry holds the key to a closet full of dark secrets. It goes way deeper than simply Harry calling Charles on TV a bad father. Now, of course, Charles, narcissist that he is, does have things in those closets, like many narcissists do. And, of course, the suggestion that Harry, being party to some of that information, might disclose it amounts to a threat to control for King Charles, something naturally that he has to nullify. And therefore, he is able to assert the threat over Harry of, if you speak out, you're going to lose out. And the king wield his power in that way. This is going to put Harry between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, he's mindful of being cut off, he's mindful of how he was treated at the funeral, and recognises that in part it was justified, but he also has to deal with this intransigent nature of his wife, and it's something I'm going to be focusing on in a later video. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.